20 years ago, the word smartphone carried a very special meaning. Cell phones were everywhere. Even camera phones were already becoming common. But if you had a smartphone, it was understood that your BlackBerry or Palm Treo or PocketPC was a more capable, more powerful mobile companion. Almost as much computer as communicator. Well, today, almost everything's a smartphone, offered in 2 primary flavors and mostly one form factor. Foldables aside, phones have never looked more similar. The hardware changes to this model year of Google phone barely worth mentioning. Where the Pixel 10 shines is where it tries to redefine what it means to be smart in 2025. And that's also where it stumbles.
Now, the most interesting thing about the Pixel, to me, is that it was already the smartest phone out there. If what you want is a device that tries to anticipate your needs and deliver them without you having to ask for them.
Like a lot of people, I've got a busy schedule, and the Pixel 10 doesn't make me open the calendar to see what's next. I've got a constant reminder on the screen about what's coming, the ferry I can't miss, or the call I'm about to forget about. The Pixel tells me the weather and whether it's changing, what music I'm playing on my headphones, and what music is playing in the space around me. It lets me know which of my accessories is connected and how much battery it has left. And it does all this whether the screen is on or off. That investment in the importance of ambient information is one of the biggest reasons I normally choose to carry a Google Pixel. Some chafe at the lack of customizability here. You can't move the at-a-glance widget, and you can't move the search bar at the bottom. And, fair enough. At the core of Android is a do-what-you-want philosophy, so it's a bit of a bump to see Google not embrace that in its home screen. But as with all Androids, you can always use another launcher, like Niagara. And doing so won't shut you out of the feature-level intelligence, providing the foundation for the Pixel experience. During my 2 weeks with the phone, I haven't gotten any spam calls, because the blend of spam detection and call screening is best in class. The calls I've wanted have been clearer, because there's background noise filtering on both my end and the caller's. Spam texts are sent to their own little timeout purgatory, never to be thought of by me or anyone. And the texts I do want come in less chaotically thanks to the new notification cooldown feature. Or at least they should. More on that in a sec. All of this is part of what it means to be a smartphone today, at least from Google's perspective. And you know what? I love that redefinition. Now, the astute phone fan will note that almost all of this was pre-existing Pixel smartness. I didn't lead with new features like Magic Queue, and there's a very good reason for that. You see, Magic Queue and some of the other new Pixel features are based on the newer generation of AI built on large language models. In this case, Gemini Nano running on the phone's new Tensor G5 processor. And well, all that sounds very impressive and bleeding edge on paper. In practice, it disappoints me just as often as it dazzles. Don't get me wrong, this stuff is awesome for chatbots, and I love Gemini Live, which makes it possible for me to have a meandering, minutes-long conversation about training my body for an upcoming 100-mile walk, or point my camera at a household appliance and ask how to maintain it. But when LLMs are leveraged to do some of the stuff the Pixel has always been great at, serving information it thinks you need without you having to ask, well, so far at least, it's not great. Take phone calls. Magic Queue is supposed to recognize who you're talking to and then surface information in the dialer that's relevant to that conversation. Well, when I was trying to make a reservation at a local restaurant over Labor Day weekend, Magic Queue decided the most helpful information to surface would be tickets for a comedy show I'm seeing in December. When I was chatting with a personal friend, it showed me emails from Delta Airlines about my meal options for upcoming flights. So, I gave it a softball next. I called Delta itself, and finally, I got something relevant. Hooray! Now, what if I call the Delta line I actually use for help with flights? Nope. Magic Queue is also supposed to work with the Weather app, giving you proactive forecasts for the locations it knows you're traveling to. And despite the fact that I'm leaving for California in less than 2 days at filming time, nope. In fact, the only thing the weather app has been good for this week is getting me soaked when its rain forecast was off by 30 minutes. Now, reviewers were warned that Magic Q takes up to 24 hours to ingest enough personal information to work. But I've been using the Pixel 10 as my daily driver for 2 weeks, and these test examples are from the past few days. Now, to be fair, I'm not giving it as much data as it needs to really shine, because in the same reviewer guidelines, Google suggests putting personal reminders in Google Keep and making extensive use of Google Messages to give Magic Q the maximum possible raw material. Well, I'm sorry, but I don't use Keep for reminders, and I don't use Messages for texting, and I'm not the only one. You're telling me that total access to my Gmail account and Google Calendar and Gboard isn't enough? It's a weirdly siloed approach for Google to take, especially when you remember this is the company that came up with Now on Tap and Circle to Search to capture everything on your screen and make it useful. The new smarts even muddy some of my favorite corners of the Pixel experience, like At a Glance, which now sometimes shows me a truly useless good afternoon or good evening greeting instead of the worthwhile glanceable information I talked about earlier. This brings back unwelcome memories of Samsung's Now bar with its friend who needs to fill awkward silences with small talk energy. Oh, and that notification cooldown feature? So cool. But it only seems to work when I'm first turning the phone on after a long time off and I get a flood of messages. Meanwhile, those friends who use the send button as a period, you know the ones, they still get to keep blowing me up sentence by sentence 20 times a minute. Fortunately, the Pixel 10 has so much baked-in cleverness that I continue to love it, despite those foibles. For the reasons why, we just need to go back to the simple things, like the aptly named Flip to Shh for instant do not disturb when you put it face down. I'll talk more about the new Pixel Journal in a future video, but I'm very much enjoying using it to log those long walks. Even the AI-tinted Daily Hub is handy from time to time. The new Material Expressive interface design is the ideal balance of playful whimsy with easily decipherable information. And I love that Google took the time to match the default highlight colors with the casing color of the phone you buy. And that brings me back to hardware, which does have two things worth talking about, besides those refreshingly saturated colorways. The first is PixelSnap, which is fairly self-explanatory as MagSafe for Android. Over the past 2 weeks, it's been wonderful to be able to use all my existing magnetic accessories with the Pixel 10. Sure, it's less efficient than a cable, but I love the wireless ease of slapping on a magnetic battery when the power gets low from too much ingress around the neighborhood. And I love that I can now toss my Pixel onto my barber's MagSafe stand to juice up while I'm getting a trim. And the second is the camera. Usually a headlining feature on the Pixel, but as this is the base model, the most important change is the addition of a 5x telephoto. Having 3 cameras on the base tier is a nice bonus. And while it's not an all-round upgrade, because the primary and ultra-wide cameras have each taken a step down in capabilities versus the Pixel 9, I think the added versatility from the additional focal lengths more than makes up for that. Enjoy some uncommented upon, unedited samples from the Pixel 10, which I shot in and around Red Hook, Brooklyn on a beautiful Labor Day weekend. And then I'll come back to wrap things up. Some dangling details. I mentioned charging, but not battery life, and that's because this is an almost perfectly average phone for endurance, as you might expect given its relatively small footprint. But in my average-size hands, it feels like the perfect compromise, at least if you don't want a flip foldable. You will be charging it every night, but you won't have to do it before bedtime unless you blast that display to the max, which is plenty bright for any setting, and ramp those speakers to their loudest. Ditto.
There is an idea of a Mr. Mobile. some kind of abstraction. But there is no real me, only an entity, something illusory. And though I can hide my cold gaze and you can shake my hand and feel flesh gripping yours and maybe even sense our phone tastes are probably comparable, I simply am not there.
Stupid.
As a clumsy guy, I've dropped the Pixel 10 at timer 3 during my testing, and it's only gotten a ding or two as a result. Tough little phone. But if you want more peace of mind, my sponsor, Dbrand, offers display protectors that go on smooth and keep the screen pristine, as well as cases and skins to help you make your phone your own. Whether that means real leather, special edition teardowns, or white Damascus. Dbrand's always doing something different, and if that speaks to you, as it does to me, do us both a favor. Hit him up at the link down below. There's so much more to say about the Pixel 10 family, even before the foldable lands in October. But broadly, as much breath as every other OEM expends on being AI-enabled or whatever, to me, the Pixel continues to be the smartest. Smart not like we used to consider it, and not smart like the LLM pushers continue to insist, but smart in every way that actually matters. To me, at least. And while the 10 Pro and Pro XL pack their own enhancements on the spendier side of the spectrum, I started with the base model because I wanted to know what Google was offering at the entry level, at least for a full-fat Pixel smartphone. And what I found was a very smart phone, once you dodge your way past all the AI contrivances. And I do think it's a very good buy at $799. This video was produced following over 2 weeks with a Pixel 10 review sample provided by Google, but as always, the company had no editorial input of any kind into this content. No copy approval rights, no early previews. It's a review, not a commercial. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, please spread the word and subscribe at the MrMobile. Next up, Apple's latest, live, or close to live, from Cupertino. Until then, from Michael Fisher, Captain Two Phones on Threads, thanks for watching. And stay mobile, my friends.